Welcome to the Selling Show, where we unpack, repack, and break down exactly how top experts sell their ideas, their value, and their services. This is your host, David Newman, and you are in the right place if you want better clients, bigger deals, and higher fees. Client retention, renewal, reactivation, having clients for life, lifers. And we'll talk about what that means in a moment because it's not really for life. But the amazing Jen Croneberger is here. Welcome to the Selling Show.
Thanks for having me as always, David.
So the theme, you did a brilliant presentation at our client retreat a few weeks ago. It went off in a surprising direction, a surprisingly wonderful direction, because people thought they were going to get hardcore sales strategies and, hardcore scripting about how do you force clients to renew? How do you force clients to upsell? How do you force clients to keep working with you? And it was quite the opposite. So share a little bit about how you started that presentation for us. Then I've got a ton more questions for you.
So I have found one thread that kind of ties us all together is just our, this seems simple, but it's our human experience, right? And we all go through the highs and the lows and the ups and the downs and the sideways and all the stuff. So the way I started that was to say that February 23rd of this year, my dad died. February 25th, I officiated at my brother's wedding in New York City. March 18th, I delivered the eulogy at my dad's memorial service. And then May 19th, I said my own vows as I married my best friend. 3 short months, less than 3 months. Quite the roller coaster. That's what the beginning of this year was for me. And I think the relevance in that, where we are today and what's going on just around us in general, there's a lot. It's a lot, and it's flying at the speed of light. And I think sometimes it's, important to kind of take a breath, recognize where you've been, have some grace and compassion around that, and then move on from there. So, I was able to kind of sit with that for a second. And when I did that, I realized, wow, okay, this has been quite a year. It's been quite a year. And that's okay. It's all good.
And just to let people know, that was also the beginning of a keynote that you gave to a tech company earlier this year.
Yep.
And it just set the tone for this amazing conversation about humanity and meaning and significance. And I want to quote something that I'd love you to dig more into. You said that those highs and the lows become our story, and then living that story becomes our legacy, and that legacy is a choice.
That's right.
Whew, so much. That's like a dense, flourless chocolate cake. Could you unpack the layers of that for us?
Yeah. So, I'm a firm believer in, we all have a story, right? Every single one of us has a story. And we have written that story up through now, today. I believe, everybody has their own adventure. It's kind of like choose your own ending, right? Remember those?
Yeah.
But I think, we can't control the stuff that happens. I can't control, when my dad died or that he did. What I can control is how I respond to it and, how I'm able to be present in that grief and be in joy at the same time. And I think that's the part that we forget, because it's either one or the other, but it's not really. It's kind of both. So I think that story that we tell, and I think, if we become professional storytellers of our own story, I think that's what connects us, when we're able to do that. And then I think, for me, anyway, the way I view that is, this is the legacy I'm leaving. This is what I want to leave as my mark in this space and time while I'm here on this earth. And, what good can I do with that? And that's always my question every single day. My feet hit the floor. What good can I bring to the world today? That's what becomes our legacy. And we get to choose that. That's not written for us. We get to choose that.
Yes. So powerful. You talked about from a relationship building standpoint.
Yeah.
It's rare that you show up and tell clients how amazing you are, how fantastic you are, your track record, all the other clients that you've consulted and coached and spoken for, and that clients, you need to meet clients where they are. And you do that through asking a lot of questions, taking your ego out of the equation and really deeply connecting with them through questions. Talk about what that looks like. What does that sound like?
So I think one of the important parts that I view as our existence here on earth is how we connect with other people. And that connection becomes the way that we build relationships. And so as we build these relationships with one another, there comes a point in time where we have to get real and authentic in that relationship. And so, I think one of the most important things to do is recognize that everybody's coming from a different place, right? We've all had, again, we all have our own story, but we all have different experiences about those stories. And recognizing that, I think, is what ties that human thread together. So, I think building relationships, sometimes they take a long time to kind of mold and come to fruition, on a business side. But I think it's about how authentic and genuine can we be. I know that for me, that's my greatest compliment that I get when I am working with a company or I'm on a stage or, whatever comes from that is, you are so authentic, you're real, you're genuine. I connect with you. And I think because, I've learned over time, building relationships is about showing up fully in that moment and meeting them where they are, which, interestingly enough, is the title of my book that I'm writing right now.
There you go. And we'll talk more about that a little bit later also, because that's going to be awesome. You also said that the reason that questions are so important in relationship building is that you are not in the mind reading business, but you're in the problem solving business.
Right. That's right.
And it's not a problem until they say it's a problem.
That's exactly.
And it's not an issue until they say it's an issue. How do you set aside, and this is a big sales question, I think, for everyone. Sometimes we show up in these conversations, we are so committed to selling what we want to sell that we don't pay any attention to what they really need to solve or what they really want to buy.
There would be money pouring out of my house right now if I did that right every time. But, there's not. So don't worry there. But, I think that's the key. We come up with these really amazing ideas and we think, hey, we're going to solve all of the world's problems. I figured it out. But if it doesn't solve their problem, it really doesn't matter. You could figure out all of that. That might work for you, but that's not necessarily what's going to work for them. And so I think, we have to be really good at asking the right questions at the right time. And for me, that's always been in conversation, right? It's having these kind of discovery conversations where I am listening way more than I'm talking. And I want to hear from them because when it comes out of their mouth, now it's easy. They just said it. In fact, I just had a situation like that come up with a client or a potential client we've been talking to for a long time. And, just kind of, I know when the time comes, the time will come. And it hasn't been the right time yet. However, I do keep going back to him with, oh, you said you had this problem. How are things going? How is this going for you? How's that issue going for you? And it's funny because, got an email from him again this morning. Hey, yeah, let's talk. Okay. I was listening. I'm paying attention to what they're saying. And, even if it's not a sale right now, I'm still in the conversation. I'm still paying attention. I'm still listening. I'm taking notes on, what are those things that he keeps bringing up so that I can go back to them and say, hey, are you ready to solve that yet?
Are you loving this interview as much as I am? Holy smokes. Hey, You know what this reminds me of? There's a fantastic sales book that you got to get your hands on right here, right now. It's called Do It Selling. How do I know it's great? Well, I wrote it and you need to read it. Pop over right now to doitselling.com. Now, back to our interview. And I can't emphasize enough, there is an intention behind this. And I think you have this, and it's kind of a small subset of our very best clients have this also, where people listening are thinking, oh, that's a great sales technique. That is a fantastic tactic right there. And it's not a sales technique, and it's not a tactic. It's building the relationship, not to make the sale.
That's right.
It's building the relationship to deepen the relationship.
That's right.
It's building the relationship to be of greater service and greater help and greater humanity to this other person, whether they become a client now, later, or never.
That's right.
That is not the primary driver. Am I correct?
100%. I think once I got that, once I really understood that my job isn't to sell them things or, to make money off of them. My job is to just make their life a little bit easier. That's why I'm here. And what I have found to be true is if I continue to do that and I go out there with that first, and that is my core mission for being on this earth, the money always follows.
Yes.
I'm not chasing the money, then it chases me.
Yes.
Because you have to have the right intention.
And you said something also really profound, that the way that you measure your success on a month-to-month basis is no longer leading with revenue, but it's leading with relationship.
That's right.
And it's not like, hey, how much money am I going to make this month? It's how many relationships am I going to advance or create or nurture?
Right.
And that the money follows the relationship,
always.
Not the other way around.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. You can't build the relationship later. Make the sale and then build the relationship. That's incongruent. It doesn't feel that there's integrity in that. Like, your words and your actions don't really match if that's the way it goes. I think if you focus on the relationship first and you just build it, expecting nothing in return, that's the key.
Yeah.
I don't expect anything from these people. If they come on with us and they work with us, that's awesome. Because I know we can help affect, their people and their teams and help make a bigger and better impact. And if they don't, guess what? I made a connection, I built a relationship, and hopefully I made his life a little bit easier.
Yes. There's also an evolutionary piece to your business success story. And initially we were talking about renewal and retention and getting more money from your existing clients. And you said something very insightful, which is there is a season. Mm-hmm. There is a season in which you need to decide what kind of clients and what kind of work you want. And there's also a season for the client.
That's right.
Where they need you or they want you at that particular stage and phase of their journey. Exactly. Talk about where your seasons and the client seasons coincide, and then at some future point they might diverge.
Yeah. So, I started really on the consulting side. I was a speaker for many, many years, was out there doing my thing, and started to build relationships from those. Usually, I would speak somewhere and then I would get hey, would love to have you back. Can you do something else? Then it was, hey, we'd love to have more of you. What does that look like? Could we just have you hang out with our people? Could we do leadership stuff? Whatever. Great. So we built that consulting side based on the need. I didn't come up with that. I remember when I first got the first, hey, can you put a proposal together? I'm like, David, proposal, help. No clue what a consulting thing would look like.
Right.
And, I wasn't looking for that. They were looking for it. So I was listening to that. But the second piece to that is, I've had some of these clients for years. And then there comes a point in time where either the people change, job roles shift, people come and go, and we're kind of at the end of, our conversation. Like we've done all these things together. better off than when we started. And sometimes we have to know when to let go. And I think in the very beginning, that was hard because it was like, I do build relationships with these people and they look at me as part of the team. And so that part, there's this weird feeling of like, I'm not going to be there as much anymore. I'm not going to see you as much anymore. However, there's something natural about that. It's kind of like, I don't really want them for life. Or maybe I'm doing something wrong if I have them for life. What's happening that they can't move on their own, right? So, there's that piece that really kind of was eye-opening for me that, I think this does kind of come in these different waves and times, and I'm there to help, but there's so many other people out there for me to work with and who might need the same help. So I don't want to be stuck in one place forever. That's why I do what I do, right? That's why we're not working for someone,
right?
Working with them and then moving on.
I think the big insight that really struck me when you talked about this is the moving on and the growth. You said there's a time and a season to move on, and maybe it's not them, maybe it's me. That you need a bigger challenge, you need a bigger horizon, you need a bigger canvas to paint your brilliance on.
Yeah, I think, a couple of these ongoing clients that are kind of starting to trickle off, and we're starting to kind of offboard them, so to speak. I don't want it ever to get stale, right? I never want it to be like, oh, I got to go there. I never want to feel that, or else I'm doing that wrong. That's not what I want. Then that's not the right client if that's what I feel when I have to deal with them, right? And of course, I'm not saying that everything is always roses and, sunshine. However, I don't want to go into these things feeling dread.
Yeah.
So I think there's moments too where we say, okay, you know what? That lifespan, we've done a pretty good job here, and I want to work with other people. I want bigger challenges. I want to do different things. So I think it's also recognizing that, which I didn't think about before. Starting to go through these things, saying, oh, yeah, you know what? It's time. I'm going to do something else.
Tell us a little bit about a brilliant practice that you and your team have, which is the impact report. What is an impact report? How do you generate one? And then how do you use it with the client?
Yeah. So I knew I wanted to give them something. I knew I wanted to tell them kind of what we've done and where we've been. And I will tell you that Eileen, who's my chief growth officer, is the one who really kind of came up with how this all shakes out and what it should look like, because she's the brains behind those operations. So we sat down and created this impact report. And in it kind of goes through, hey, these are a lot of the things that we've done over this past year. Here are the numbers. Here's the data. We did this many these and those, this many those, and, all of the different roundtable calls or workshops or whatever we were doing. We have that all in there. And then there's, here's what we could do moving forward. So there's always that kind of big picture thinking, if they want to go down different paths. But the thing, in my opinion, that gets the most traction of all of that stuff is towards the end, where we have this qualitative data, and it says your people, their words. And it literally is just quotes from people, unsolicited emails after I would go do something or speak there or work with a team or whatever it was. We would get these emails or, different things that people would send me, or a little in the chat, if I'm on Teams doing something. And we captured all of those, asked them if can we use these? Yeah, absolutely. So here they are in the impact report. So they're literally, these leaders are sitting there looking at, okay, here's all the stuff we did. Here's why we did it. Here's what we could do. Oh, and by the way, here's what your people are saying. So, as they're sitting there and they're reading that, they're like, oh, wow, okay. Yeah, you definitely moved a needle here. And it's so simple. It's not a hard thing to put together. I think it's like 12, 14 pages or something like that, but it's simple. It's all laid out. And then I show up, here's your impact report for 2023. And it kind of blows them away a little bit. Like, whoa, okay. Here's the impact we had, because a lot of people, especially this work, people always are like, how do we measure it? Right? This is the soft, squishy stuff, as people say.
Yeah.
No, this is essential people stuff. And what they say has a lot to do with it. So that's been really powerful for us.
And part of that is kind of a recap of whatever the consulting or coaching or training project was. Here's where we moved some needles, and here's where we have some other needles yet to move. So it could either be a beautiful summary document that you leave with them and say, hey, Elvis is about to leave the building, and tie a ribbon around the relationship. Or it's also the blueprint for the next step or the next stage of where they might want to go.
Yeah, and that's really been, I think, having that all in one place. It's not like a proposal here and a this over here. It's let's put it all together. And they get to sit and look at that all in one place. It's a lot easier for them to say, hey, look at all the stuff we did. Here's what everybody's saying. And here are some things to move forward. Yeah, okay, let's do that. I mean, that's typically
exactly. I will sometimes say, I will tell a consultant or a speaker or a trainer, imagine where your business would be if you were still doing business with everyone that was ever a client in the past. And then I heard you say, your business can never grow if you keep doing business with everyone that has ever hired you. And I was like, oh, crap, she's right. So don't be upset that you're not doing business with every client that's ever given you money. Celebrate that, because that is where you're, think of it like a potted plant. It's time for a bigger pot. It's time for a bigger, you need to be more sunshine, more water, different environment in order for you to grow healthy and successfully. That is easy to say. It's sometimes not easy to hear. And it's sometimes not easy for ourselves to hear, even if we're the ones saying it. How do you cope with that renewal and refreshment, and the cast of characters is shifting and we're saying goodbye to some cast members, and now we're welcoming in some brand new, fresh people that we have not worked with?
I think the most important thing that we can do is let go of expectation. I think we have this thing. Here's the expectation of what I believe it should look like. I mean, who decides that, right? If that's the thing that we're seeing in our head, like this is what it's always been, so this is what it always has to be, that will keep you stuck for sure. You can't grow a business that way. And so I think once we really grasp that and could understand that, oh, wait a second. Yeah, no, we don't want all that, and it's okay to change your mind too. That's kind of amazing. Like we're in different places today than we were 4 years ago when we started with certain clients.
Yeah.
We are doing different things. We are adding different services. We're building out different things that we want to have, for new people. We can't scale if we're, attached or tethered, to this other thing. You can't move forward, right? It's kind of like, that whole idea.
And it's almost like pruning a tree, right? That it's healthy, it's necessary, because you can't have the space and the time and the bandwidth to create new programs and services and offerings if you're still spending all that time servicing the legacy clients.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, I sat with this for a while, because this is, as I was going through this process of renewal, okay, they're not going to renew in the way that we've done it before. Okay, that's great. It wasn't like, there, of course there was that immediate, oh my gosh, okay, so we're not going to have that guaranteed revenue of, whatever, 400K sitting there. Okay. And what did you do before you had that? To me, that piece feels really freeing. It's almost like letting go of what I expected it to be, what it needed to be, because that's what it was, and allowing myself to think of new things and to see different things. I think, we have to be flexible. And, the economy changes, the needs of the people change, what's going on around us change. So we have to not be afraid to change too, to meet them where they are, right?
Yes.
Or else we're stuck. I mean, that's really the definition.
Holy smokes, so much value in this episode. Listen, if you are loving what you're hearing, feel free to download, subscribe, tell a friend, leave a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to The Selling Show. Now, back to the interview. And I think it's fighting this concept of more, bigger, better, always more, bigger, better. If you keep on loading main dishes onto your plate, you're just going to get sick, right? So you can't go to the buffet of life or business and say, I want 10 appetizers, 10 main dishes, and 10 main desserts.
No.
Something has to go back on the table so that you get something new.
I think about this too as it's almost as simple as breathing. In order to take a deep breath, we have to breathe out. We have to constrict to expand. That is like the simplest way. I think that really helped me bring this into focus to recognize, wait a second, this is a constant ebb and flow. It's like the ocean. It doesn't just come one way. There's a reason it goes back out, right? It's a renewal process, a refresh, begin again type thing. And I think that's really healthy in business. You can't innovate if you're standing in the same spot all the time.
That's a beautiful flow, right? Where it's inhale, exhale. People need to also move, not only have no expectations, but move away from seeing that as a failure. Sure. Oh, I lost a 4-year client. That's a failure. I'm a schmuck. I must be a terrible consultant. I must not know what I'm doing. That is an opportunity to bring something new into your business. And so a lot of people say, well, I want more, bigger, better. And if I get this, like acquisition, if I get this, what does that make possible? A more fun question that you're prompting me to think about, now that that's gone, what does this now make possible?
Right.
Now that I have some space, now that I have some bandwidth, what does this now make possible? Totally different question, right?
Totally different question, because you're removing the lens that we have sometimes around failure. That, I messed that up, so I am a failure, period. What's interesting about that, and obviously, my background is sports psychology. We studied failure. We talked about failure all the time with athletes. That was a common thing, being afraid of failure or being afraid of success, because that's a real thing too. But what we did really in studying failure is we recognized that we as a society are very confused about failure, because we believe that it should look a certain way. We attach emotion to it. It's either good or bad. And the truth is, failure is neither good nor bad. It's just a thing in and of itself. It's feedback. And so when we detach from the emotion of the outcome, then we let failure be that feedback that actually can point us in the right direction. And I think that's the piece. I mean, that was life-changing for me to wrap my head around, it's not about me being a failure, because what happens? We're all taught that failure is good, right? Failure is good. And you're like, yeah, failure is good, but not for me, right? Failure is good for you, David. Fail on, my friend. You're going to learn from it.
Right.
That's our confusion. It's like we don't want to be one, but we're told that it's good. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And how? Well, give us kind of a update, state of the union. What is going on at Team JLCG? How do you help your clients? What sort of problems, issues, questions? When they're having those kinds of problems, when should they pick up the bat phone and call you?
So we really are focused right now in this brave human leadership construct that we kind of built: belonging, resilience, authenticity, vulnerability, and empathy. Spells brave. We have created an ongoing kind of a program. We've created an 8-week accelerator. We've created an index, a brave index, where it's kind of like an assessment that you can use with your people or yourself. And I think the key to all of this is that we want to make sure that we can bring it to more people, right? We want to make sure that we can take this message to more people. And so we're really focused in that, obviously, doing a lot of speaking and consulting around those things, compassionate leadership, empathy in the workplace. We just did a whole thing on trauma-informed leadership, which is really fascinating stuff. neuroscience of connection, fascinating stuff. But it really has just kind of brought this other level into how we're talking about how we human, right? It's like, what can we do to affect, or like I said, to just make someone's life a little bit easier by understanding this stuff and knowing how to connect with each other and build relationships.
Really, really powerful. And I'm guessing that the impact on this, or some of the initiatives that executives might look at as related to this, obviously leadership, diversity, culture, retention, inclusion, having a cohesive, high-performing workforce. When people want to come to work, they want to contribute their best. They want to perform at their highest. Again, not because they have to, but because they want to, because they feel that their voice matters, their talent matters, and they could be getting called by recruiters every week, say, hey, you want $50,000 more? And they say, no, you could offer me $100,000 more and I will not leave this place.
That's right. Yeah. And that's the key. The key is, what do you want that to look like? Again, we're kind of in charge of that. Like that's us. And so we can create that however we want. And so, a lot of the work we're doing with leaders is exactly that. It's, what culture do you want to have? What do you want that to look like? And if a lot of these companies are coming to us right now because they're getting back their employee engagement surveys and it's end of year. And they're like, oh, our numbers went way down. I've heard that across the board this year. Okay, so we can help you with that. We can help you with that. We can kind of dot those I's and cross those T's to find, where are the gaps? What's happening? Is there a gap between leadership and, that mid-level management? What's happening in the connecting and a lot of people are still hybrid or they're totally work from home. So what does that look like? How can you make sure that, you're still building that culture? People are tired. They're just tired.
Yeah.
So let's meet them where they are. Let's figure that out.
1,000%. Well, Jen Croneberger, you are such a rock star. Tell folks where they can get connected and stay connected to more Jen Croneberger brilliance.
You can find me on LinkedIn. That's easy. Search my name. Or our website, www.teamjlcg.com. Happy to talk to you anytime.
And LinkedIn, there's articles, resources, all kinds of fun things there.
Yep, we do a LinkedIn Live every week, so that's on there as well. Come join us, hang out with us. It's a good time.
And would I be speaking out of turn if I said not only is a cool, fabulous book coming, but you're about to publish some cool original research as well, yes?
Yes, we are working on that in the beginning of the year. We've had some really cool stuff so far with the research, and the book is in the works right now and hopefully will be out by mid-year 2024.
Totally fantastic. We have to have you back once the book is out so we can talk about all the wonderfulness that's in there too.
Perfect. Sounds good, my friend. Thank you.
And that wraps up another episode of The Selling Show. Hey, tell you what, if you like us, rate us and review us on Apple Podcasts, subscribe, tell a friend, go grab the notes and downloads and extras at thesellingshow.com. See you next time.